So just surprised a couple of you. Laura Ann McLean, hi from Scotland. Hi, Laura. Moira Green, hi from the UK. Amanda Hudson, waiting from Florida. Well, we don't need to wait any longer. Daisy White, why was I timed out? I'm not sure. Were you timed out? Simply Positive, hello everyone. Margie, good to see you. Stephanie, how was your gym session? Confetti Masquerade, quite interesting name there. Just looked online but cannot find the new pic. Where is it posted? Ginger Snap Judy. I think of the expression, give them enough rope. Yeah, that's quite a good point there. Ali Cat, hello everyone. Iron Maiden England, hi from the northwest of the UK. Earth Dog, I must say, looks like I'm going to miss that. I must say, of all the people covering this, I have the most respect for this one. Thanks a lot. That means something. Jean Karras, hello from Boulder. Good to have you here, Jean. Liz Taylor. Oh, we've got Elizabeth Taylor here. My first live. Good to have you here. Leslie B. Hi, Nick and Chad. Looking forward to another great live. Holly Blackwell. Hi. Matt Black. Hi from the UK. Darlene Wilson, much love from Florida. Jennifer Ann, Deb Lyons from West Michigan, hi there. Well, we're already at almost 300. Usually we get quite a slow start. Loris, good to have you here. Margie, GLE Properties. Hope you can comment on Donald's use of past tenses. Erin Rampage, hi from Oklahoma. Debbie Gott from the UK. Maureen Julie McGraw is talking about if Don's left. Have you guys noticed there's nothing on Facebook from Don for the past 3 days? AB, thank you for the great insight. Much respect from Canada. Thanks very much. I think AB is anomaly or abnormal, something detected. I remember seeing something like that. Pretty cool. Patty McClee Free, hi from Ohio. Tricia Wilcox. We'll only know if Don's not around from someone on the ground there. You know, I think it would have made the news if he was. It certainly is a rumor that's going on. I don't really want to talk about things that are not confirmed, but it certainly is a rumor going around. M. Ray, hello from Rhode Island. I'm Melissa. Melissa, I'll try and remember that. Melissa Ray. Beatrice Ziegler, did you see the twisted thing on TikTok? Is that something new? Greetings from Canada from Teresa Moore. Hi, Teresa. Jonetta McFarlane from Alabama. Good to have you here. Pavel Chersky. Good evening from Warsaw. Tina Stevenson, Wichita, Texas. Ellen Mosley, hi from Southeast Texas. How is Texas doing? Is it pretty hot out there? Bria, good of you to join us. I've been in Paris right now, just watching the end of the Tour de France, wondering whether Mark Cavendish was going to beat Eddie Merckx's record, but he failed. Alina Ahrens, hi from Germany. Malvina Smith, you ask all the right questions. Maggie B, hey everyone. David van der Veen, hi. Hi David, where are you from? Jesse Bentley, hi from Middle Tennessee. Good to have you here. Elena Wolf, Texas is hot. Okay. Stephanie, a personal and warm welcome to you all. We appreciate you being here and your support. Okay. I think when we're at 500, we can kind of get going. We're almost there. Melinda Lawler, the Wolfpen Gap, where the waterfalls. Okay. Shannon Penny, 4 a.m. in Australia. Wow, you're up early. Honest Rage, Ohio is beautiful. Tennessee is heaven. Nina 3, hi, Scottish Highlands. Okay. Mimi, hello from North Carolina. Brenda Trude, hello from Des Moines, Iowa. Sarah Angelique, thanks very much. Thanks a lot. Okay, so we over 500. So I'm going to take you through what we're going to do in this live stream. We're going to go through 3 areas. We're going to deal with the Dodson interview. There's quite a lot that I actually didn't deal with in the previous episode that I did. I'm just going to go through some of the things that he mentioned. Then I'm going to take you through, so that's all kind of these notes here. Then I'm going to take you guys through this book. And the idea behind this book is to guide our thinking. It's to guide the way that we are going to think about this case going forward, right? And I don't know if you can read it. It says, it's called the Scout Mindset. And it says here, why, can you read that? Why some people see things clearly and others don't, right? And what's written here in kind of fine print, think more clearly, see yourself more accurately, and be wrong less often, right? So we're going to just go through the introduction of this book and get a kind of a guiding mindset for how we need to be thinking about this case, okay? So we're going to start with Dodson, deal with some of the things we didn't deal with in the previous episode. Then we're going to go into Julia Galef's book, The Scout Mindset. And then I'm going to take you through almost taking the psychology of Julia's book forward. I'm going to take you through the answers to this question, how they're managing to get away with it, right? And I've actually heard that question come up quite a few times. And you're going to see the true crime rocket science approach here is to follow the evidence, to prove your case, not necessarily by pointing at someone, but by disproving another theory, right? So in other words, we're not necessarily saying, how are you, and fill in the person's name, how are you getting away with this? We're basically saying the abduction theory doesn't make any sense and the reasons why, right? So that's something I do quite often in my books. I spend a lot of my time disproving, let's call it the defense case. It's almost like a trial. You're trying to, the prosecution's case isn't necessarily pointing at the accused, it's disproving the defense, if that makes sense. It's taking the defense to pieces, looking at the timeline and all that kind of thing. Sophie says, has there been any new developments, rumors? There have been 1 or 2. Gemini 2, hi from Johannesburg, South Africa. Hi, Gemini, I hope you're doing well, hope you're safe. Lisa Mounts, hi. Okay, so this part of the live stream is kind of going to hold hands with the previous episode I put up, who is David Dodson? And the irony with that whole episode is I don't think the question was sort of answered in a basic way, like what job does he do? And things like that. So the answer to that is he's a mortician. He was a paramedic for 23 years, I think he said, and currently unemployed. I think he's been unemployed for a year. And I think he either lost I'm not sure if he lost his job or he quit his job or he wasn't able to do his job because of Crohn's disease, if I heard right. And so that I think that also gives you a kind of an idea of the kind of person we're talking about. It's interesting, he was asked to give some information about himself in the unmasked interview, and I think he only really provided that information right at the end, like at the 45-minute mark or so, which I just thought was interesting, I guess. Rhonda Wilkins says Dodson is widowed as of April 2019. I didn't know that. Stephanie says that was an interesting interview. she says, I didn't find him creepy, I found him genuine. He does seem to be someone who's trying quite hard to be there for the family, going out of his way, right? And you can imagine if he's unemployed, then he certainly has the kind of time resources in a way to do that, you know. So I'm gonna go through some of the notes that I took that I haven't brought up so far. The first thing that I thought was quite interesting is that what Dodson says was that Don told him that two of the dogs, that's the law enforcement dogs, canine units, two of the dogs picked up her scent, meaning Summer's scent, on the driveway. So what David said that Don told him was that two canines picked up Summer's scent on the driveway. Now, I seem to remember reading on Don's Facebook or somewhere, seeing somewhere, that Don said actually her trail went through the forest somewhere and then it came out down at the driveway. Because if you think about Summer's scent going down the driveway to the road, there's nothing suspicious about that. I mean, think about your own scent at your own home. Do you think your scent might go to the driveway, to the post box, to the front door kind of thing? But if it went through this sort of side area, you know, maybe that's suspicious. Now, you must bear in mind, you have a situation here where Don can say something and there's no counter narrative to that. There's no, law enforcement don't sort of put up their hands and say, no, that's not accurate. Or actually, the full story is this or that. Do you follow what I'm saying? Am I coming through in a clear image on my phone, and what I'm seeing, it seems to be slightly slow. Am I coming through clear? Clear for me. Okay, well, that's good. Shannon says no. Someone says yes, lagging. Okay, if I'm not clear, I think just refresh your screen. It's slow. The slow mode is on in terms of, yeah. Someone says lag. All good here? Okay. There is a slight delay. Okay. Lagging but clear. E. Miller, hi, new Patreon from Florida. Clear but lagging a little. Okay, well, let's hope it's okay. I think I forgot to turn streaming TV off downstairs, and that may be having an impact. So the other thing that Dodson says was, you know, he was asked, what is your theory of what happened? And he basically just said, I don't know what happened. And I don't think a self-respecting true crime channel can do that. Maybe if you want to be popular to some extent or politically correct, but the point of a true crime channel is to kind of have an opinion. And, you know, there's this channel by, let me just thank SM Kovalinsky. Hi from New York City area, have attempted to relay info posted from vetted sources, but it moves too fast. Well, you can contact me on Twitter. You can also contact Stephanie if Stephanie wants to sort of check that out. Jules asks, where did Don go? But thank you very much, Mr. Kovalinsky. Thanks very much for that. Clear here, but buffered. Okay. Very clear. Okay. Love critical thinking. Thanks, Honest Rage. I wonder if I would maybe turn off my other computer, because there are quite a few things open there. Maybe that'll help. Let's just get a vote. If you're having signal problems, put up a 2. If everything's fine, put up a 1. Let's just have a look at what signal problems. Put up a 2. No problems. Put up a 1. 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. It's like kind of a mixed bag. Okay. Well, You might have to excuse me for a second so that I can just turn off another computer. That might be causing a problem. Let me just do that so I can kind of get out here. Okay, I'm back. Hopefully that's better. Is it kind of an improvement? Rhonda Wilkins 1, 2. Well, hopefully that is an improvement. Okay, Stacey says, everyone please hit like and subscribe. Okay, so guys, I'm just going to carry on here. Sorry about that delay there. Heather O'Brien, thanks very much. So Don said, I'd spoken with Candace. Candace said they'd been swimming, planting flowers. Candace watched Summer walk into the house. And I've kind of always found that to be quite a strange statement to say, I watched Summer walk into the house. Not only that, what did Candace then do? So after Summer walked into the house, what did Candace do after that? And for that matter, also, what did Candy do at that point? So he also talks about 20 minutes past, whereas what she said on air was 2 minutes, right? Then the children apparently told him that the basement door was locked. There's a quote from what he said on Unmasked. He said, the children even told me it was locked. Sorry, the basement door was locked, right? The other thing that I think Dodson mentions is that people grieve in different ways, right? He sort of talks about people grieve in different ways. But that is a classic defense retort. You often hear that as part of the defense case saying, for example, Casey Anthony, Amanda Knox, the Ramseys, the McCanns, people grieve in different ways. And typically what happens when you hear that is that the public at large are kind of saying, I'm not seeing really any grieving. I'm seeing odd behavior where there should be grieving. I'm seeing people going back to normal. I'm not seeing, I don't see a single tear. A lot of people were upset with Kate McCann that they didn't really see her shed a tear kind of thing. And then later on you did. You heard that with Chris Watts as well. Timmy, come. Timmy wants some attention. Do you want your toy? Okay, let's look at some of your comments. No outrage or emotion, not one tear. To me, you could say in that situation, for example, when they did their interview on camera, you could say maybe, and this is what Dodson was saying, is that they all cried out, kind of thing, right? Maybe she's been crying for a long time, but what about the next time you see her? What about the time after that? You would think at some point you're going to see this person emotionally overwhelmed. You know what I mean? In other words, at some point the emotions that you're trying to hold back actually break through, right? Tell me what you're trying to do. Ellen Mosey says, hi to me, looking good. I've actually taken his collar off just to give him a little bit of freedom. Marisa Ross, is there a difference dealing with grief from a death versus a true abduction? So that's quite a good question. I would think that an abduction would leave you more kind of unraveled. You would be more undone by something like that because you don't have closure. And I'm actually narrating a book on Madeleine McCann sort of currently. And so I'm going through some of that material that I've gone through when I wrote the book. And what's quite amazing is Kate McCann saying, someone said, do you go through ups and downs when someone reports a sighting? Right. So someone calls in and says, I think I saw Madeleine. And then her response is, no, we don't have that at all. Daphne, I've read about half of your books and appreciate all of the effort you put in your work. It challenges me to think differently about not just the cases, but my own relationships. That's so awesome to hear. Tallulah, thanks as well. That's so awesome to hear, because I don't want to be just a true crime channel. I want to challenge you to think critically. I want you to think about how you see your world and what is going on around you, and that you can understand people that you're dealing with, and that they can kind of understand you, and that you're not going to label them, and you're not going to see things in a sort of a shallow way, and that maybe you can see things in a way that connects to one another, and in a way that's not fragmented. And there are a lot of lessons we can take from true crime into our lives, right? If we're talking about something like grieving, in other words, it's healthy to grieve. It's healthy to grieve. It's healthy to show emotion, to have that sort of safety valve. And so when you don't see it, it doesn't necessarily mean something's definitely happening, but it is a concern, because it's normal to grieve, because it's normal to show emotion, because it would be normal to be overwhelmed with emotion, right? Nancy says, I lost my son. You go through a lot of different emotions. True. Maddie's parents, okay. Definitely not just true crime from my viewpoint. Learned a lot about thinking more deeply about things. Well, I hope in this episode, you guys are going to learn a different way of thinking about things that we think about, and we're going to deal with that through this book. I haven't read the whole book. I've only just actually gotten it. I read the introduction last night and really found it fascinating. I was quite excited, just thinking, I can't wait to share this with you guys. Anyway, going back to David Dodson, and going on to the next page, something that he revealed was that he was 52 years old, which I thought was interesting. He said the Wells boys had never played putt-putt golf before. And your heart's kind of got to go out to them. You realize that what is happening here is there's an abnormal level of deprivation. And, when, I've been a little bit critical about the alcohol consumption or something, and someone else will say, don't judge or don't point fingers or something. But if you don't even have money for putt-putt, or I don't know if they don't have money for food or for firewood, but you've got money for alcohol, that shows your priorities. And I think that is something that should be criticized. And I can tell you, when just before I went overseas for the first time, I was working my butt off to make the trip. And I was working, I think, 3 jobs at the same time. I was even doing a medical trial. And the one job I did, I was working in like a caravan in a very poor area, it's kind of like a small little shop in a caravan. And I was just shocked at how people were buying aspirin and Coca-Cola and cigarettes with a little bit of money that they had. They would have very little money, but they would spend it on like the most unhealthy stuff: Coca-Cola, aspirin, cigarettes, and very little on food. Very little on food. They would, and so you kind of got just the sense of how much aspirin they were buying. You were kind of getting the sense that. Were these people addicted to aspirin, or did they have constant hangovers? Like, what is going on, So before I worked in that scenario, I kind of had a lot of sympathy for poor people and a lot of compassion. But my feelings changed a little bit when I thought, wow, with a little bit of money you have, it seems like you're making some of your problems worse. It was just an observation I had, Aaron, I don't think I'm going to talk about that here. I heard about it on the other channel. If someone comes forward and speaks to the media about it and provides their name, that to me is credible information. It looks like there's still kind of a lag here. I wonder if I'm going to have to get up and turn off my television. Aspirin stops angina. Okay. Aspirin does not help a headache. Okay. 1,300 in chat. I actually thought that that's a big number until I heard Unmasked saying I think they had 3,500 in chat. So that certainly was quite humbling to see that. But it's good to have you all here. Have you guys all subscribed? Summer hasn't been to a doctor at all since she was 3 years old. How do you know that? How do you know about that? Do you think Don has left? Well, he's not saying anything on Facebook. I don't know. That is a rumor that's going around. So what Dodson also says was that he took them to the aquatic center and he said that the boys loved swimming, which I thought was quite interesting. If the boys loved swimming, why not take them to the swimming hole that day if the boys loved swimming? So if you guys want to, why don't you email David Dodson? I think his email is, he provided it to Unmasked, missionarymedic@gmail.com, and ask him if Don's still around. You guys can do that right now if you want to. Carmel from Ireland. Good to see you, Carmel. Gigi Georgine, good to see you as well. Rose, your channel and Patreon are my favorite. Thanks, Rose. The other thing that I thought was a little bit interesting, I've already mentioned it, was that Dodson didn't really talk about his background very much. And then what else did I write here? I've written here that Don and Candace seem to have gone radio silent on their social media. So I wonder whether that was through advice from someone or whether things are happening. I don't know. I also watched a channel that said something about that, but I would imagine it would have made the news by now. Another thing that Dodson said that I thought was interesting was he said, Grandma Candace was very quiet. I thought that was quite interesting. He said, she just has that grief in her eyes. So you can, in terms of Dodson, he said you could see the grief in Candy's eyes. I don't know, can you see grief in Candace's eyes? Suffragium, hello all from Miami, good to see you. Curious Irish Angel, hello from the Windy City. Louis Parsons. Nat Man, the only place he will leave to is, okay. Corin Levi, greetings from Geneva. Good to see you, Corin. It's been weird watching the Tour de France where the sun seems like it's still up there and it looks like such a nice day. Dewey Weber, Aloha from Hawaii. Crystallina Bacteria, hi from the UK. Yvonne Phillips, Last night I saw that Candace has her own YouTube channel. Really? I didn't know that. Aaron Hicks, new sub from Missouri. Where are you filming from? South Africa. Dodson also spoke about wounds from the past, that Candy has wounds from the past. I wonder what wounds Candace has from the past that we don't know about. He also said that when Candy walks, she does limp. So he wasn't quite clear what the operation entailed that she had on, or not operation, whatever happened to her hip or her leg or her knee, when she went to the emergency on June the 15th. So I'm a little bit, my aunt and uncle were diagnosed with corona, and I think one of them had a hip replacement, and I've kind of got that on my mind. So I think that's causing me to be a little bit distracted today. Bobby, Kat, thanks very much. Thanks. You're right. Thanks for your breakdown of this very sad case. Nacho, hi from Suffolk. Love your channel. Thanks a lot. Janelle says, yes, Candace YouTube, only clean, happy pics. Can someone put a link to Candace's YouTube channel here? It would be quite interesting to look at. Then I also thought this is quite interesting. This is the next page. This is a quote from Dodson. He says, I know that Don got 3 to 4 lie detector tests, all on the same day. He passed them all. What do you think of that? What do you think of Don getting 3 or 4 lie detector tests all on the same day and him passing them all? I mean, if you took a lie detector test and passed, do you think the police would give you another one? And then you took that one and passed, do you think the police would give you another one? What do you think about that? I mean, just using logic. Have you ever heard of someone getting 4 lie detector tests? What do you guys think? Anyway, this is what Dodson said, and then also that he passed them all. Then he also said Candace also took a lie detector, but she was very tired. And then he admits that a couple of areas she showed deception. So I don't know how he knows this. I don't know whether Candace told him this or Don told him this, but it's been passed on that in a couple of areas she showed deception. And he kind of explains it as, well, she was tired and stressed. So then she took it again, and then she passed with flying colors. That should be inverted commas. Passed with flying colors. Like Chris Watts, did Chris Watts think he passed with flying colors? Wasn't Chris Watts tired and stressed? It's difficult to say, but I think something else Dodson says was, if it was serious enough, they wouldn't have let them go home or something like that. So I think Dodson's opinion is, if what was done and, I think what was said in the lie detector was serious enough, the authorities wouldn't have let Candace and Don go home. So the perception by, for example, Dodson is that because they haven't been arrested, they must be innocent, right? And remember, the topic today is, how are they managing to get away with this, right? And so that is the perception that kind of has been created, which is whoever did something to Summer, and yes, I am assuming something has happened to Summer, there was foul play. Whoever is responsible for that seem to be managing to get away with it. How are they managing to get away with it? And so that's an assumption that someone is making, that they are, that someone's getting away with something, and also that law enforcement don't suspect anyone, don't know anything, and are frustrated. And you get what I'm saying? All rumors. Rachelism says, I think that Don knows what Candace has done. Okay. Jojo Peanut. They don't come across as criminal masterminds. Neither did Chris Watts, right? But we're going to get to that in a second. We're going to deal with Chris Watts in a second. Chloe says, we are entering the Aquarius age. Many false truths are being exposed. Okay. Heather West. Wow, Heather, you here on... Heather is almost always present during a live and usually the first to contribute. Good to have you here, Heather. I hope it's going well where you are. Thanks a lot. Then what else have I written here? Candace and Don told David this is really interesting to me from a legal perspective. Candace and Don told David that they received a document or a report saying that they passed their lie detector, right? Now that's like I almost picked up a post-it. That's like, here's a piece of paper that proves I passed the lie detector, right? Now, if you've got that, why wouldn't you wave it around on social media? Why wouldn't you post that on Facebook saying, look, everyone thinks I'm lying, here is the proof, there it is. Do you think that is cruel or unkind or harsh to say that? If put yourself in their shoes, and I appreciate that it may not be quite as simple as this, but if you were in that situation, people and you had someone missing, today's day 33, missing, suspicion and rumors going on, and some people pointing their finger at you, and law enforcement coming to your property again and again, wouldn't you put up, if you had it, wouldn't you put up a document saying lie detector passed? I would, if it was me. Wouldn't you? Leslie says those kids know. Stephanie says 100%. Pauline, I think the parents should be less interested in what people think about them. True. Yes, immediately. Okay, so I want to put a I don't know if it's a challenge or a request, is, if those lie detector reports are out there, please put them up. Let's see them. Let's see them. Because it would be good to then see them and then exclude that aspect. Do you guys agree? Then something I also found quite odd, I know some people have spoken about this, Don asked for firewood in the middle of summer. So a lot of people have been sending food all over, food to the family. Everyone's trying to help them out. And then they asked, Don, what do you want? Like, what don't you have that you need? And then he said firewood. And I kind of just thought, wow, it's July. I mean, wouldn't you only really think about firewood in the fall? I mean, we're not even in the fall. And quite a few thoughts went through my mind in terms of wanting firewood. So anyway, I thought that's something that stood out to me. I'm not going to take that aspect further, although I could. Then at 49 minutes, Dodson said, I'm a mortician. I've been out of work since July last year. I had to stop working due to health problems. Then he says, a lot of people have accused me of stuff. He says, I was a paramedic for 23 years. Then I became a mortician. And then he says, Candace was showing the officers and myself videos of Summer and the boys swimming. These are his words. Candace was showing the officers and myself videos of Summer and the boys swimming. I don't know whether that's an error, whether he's misspoke. Again, maybe he can correct himself. But, surely it was just Summer and one of the boys. One boy. Because as far as we know, the official version is that none of the boys went swimming. So, I don't know. I don't know what you guys think about that. But Dodson's version is that he understood it, that her brothers were swimming as well. And that was how I understood it early on as well. I thought the little brothers were there as well, and then heard something else. Then there was some talk about Rose May. I've seen her name come up. He said, I met her that day. I think Rose May is a friend of Candace Senior's, Candy's. And Candace introduced her, or Candy introduced her as, this is my friend Rose from Wisconsin. So it's quite interesting that she's in the house, in the area. And then Dodson says they're running out of places to put their food. David also said, I'd never met him, meaning Macbeth. I've never met him. Also that Candace was FaceTiming with Macbeth when I went there. Now, I know a lot of people thought, well, I thought you never went there before, but he's talking about, after June the 15th. He never went to the property before June the 15th, but after that, he went there several times to bring them food and whatever. And on one of the times that he went there, he came across, or he noticed Candace was FaceTiming with Macbeth. And I think Macbeth knew it, and it was like, well, this is my friend Macbeth, or something like that. And this was within the first week of Summer's disappearance. Now, I don't know if you think about that, within a week of Candace's disappearance, within a week of Summer's disappearance, Candace is FaceTiming with a 15-year-old. Then, and this is the final note that I've written here, but I think it's quite an important one. The boys didn't tell me that directly. That's a quote also from Dodson. The boys didn't tell me that directly, and it's a quote referring to that they saw Summer walk in the house, right? That's a critical piece of information. It's a critical piece of information that the boys didn't tell David that. You would imagine if you're in that situation, you're in the house, seeing some of the little boys there and saying, hey, when last did you see your sister? Do you remember the last time you saw your sister? And then you kind of get the sense that conversation isn't taking place. And so this thing of that they saw Summer walk into the house isn't coming from the boys, it's coming from Candace. Anything wrong with that? And that's my spiel on the Dodson interview. I was hoping to cram it into like half an hour because I found the whole discussion a little bit difficult to get through for some reason, maybe because it was the weekend. So I was hoping to just condense it for you guys. Bobby Cat, I do not understand this relationship between a grown woman and a 15-year-old. I find that very strange, don't you? I think the best person to ask that is Alison Harris. Did she find it strange? And I think she said something like, she's not gonna, she's kind of got a bone to pick with Candace, but she's not gonna let a grudge spoil the fun between Macbeth and Summer. And I think that's quite interesting, is the way that Alison understands this whole situation is that there's a friendship friendship between a 15-year-old and a 5-year-old. I don't know whether he has babysat some in the past, but there certainly are photos that kind of give that impression of this older boy with younger children. And so in that sense, there might be kind of a sort of informal friendship going on. But one wonders whether that wasn't a cover for some other kind of friendship going on. Lisa Sweats. It's quite an unusual name. If the cops were doing their job, the other children would not be there still. I think they're in danger. It's an interesting point. But I think you're assuming that what happened to Summer happened deliberately. I'm not sure that that's the case. But it is, I think there is some concern about the boys. I think there definitely is, but there's definitely vigilance and interest and support coming from the church, which I think helps. Do you guys agree? West Virginia, thank you very much. Thanks. Have I missed Gigi Jardine? Thanks very much, Gigi. Thanks a lot. Well, there's so many comments coming through. Secondary drowning from Green Eyes. Could be that. Covering it up is still a crime. To me, what I'm kind of interested right now is there evidence of a cover-up? Not so much did something happen, I'm kind of moved beyond that. I'm thinking a little bit further, are things being covered up? Are we being misdirected, right? That's kind of where my thinking is. While we're at 1,650 now, that's another new record. Anyway, that brings us to the next point, or the next section of this discussion, where I want to talk about the thinking, the mindset in this book by Julia Galef, right? It's called The Scout Mindset, Why Some People See Things Clearly and Others Don't. And I want to talk about this specifically with regard to the title of this video. So if you say, how are they managing to get away with this, right? So the question is, how are they managing to get away with this? And then you kind of have this book that is saying, why do some people see things clearly and others don't? And I think it's quite a subtle thing that I'm going to go into now, because I'm going to go from this psychology, this mindset, this guide to thinking about things in a certain way, to a couple of other cases to illustrate what I'm talking about. So I'm going to read the blurb on the back here, just so you can see what this is basically about. A better way to combat knee-jerk biases and make smarter decisions, from the acclaimed expert on rational decision-making. When it comes to what we believe, humans see what they want to see. So when we see how are they managing to get away with this, isn't that what we're seeing? That it looks like they're getting away with something, are they? And couldn't it be that somebody wants somebody else to think that they're getting away with something? Couldn't it be that someone wants someone to make a mistake? Couldn't it be that someone wants someone else to relax, right? To let off their guard? Do you see where I'm coming from? Someone asked, what's my gut instinct? Is the video coming through clearer? Is there still buffering going on? Is it a little bit better? Just waiting for you guys to answer. Christy says better. Okay. Video is clear, sound is good. Okay, good. So let me read the rest here. It says, if we want to get things right more often, we should train ourselves to have a scout mindset. Unlike a soldier, a scout's goal isn't to defend one side over the other, right? Now also think about this in terms of YouTube, but think about it in terms of crime. Think about it in terms of this group forming. And right now there's kind of the SDA church community that is rallying behind Candace and Don and the Wells family. And then you've got other people who are negative and evil and whatever. So you already got this sort of two camps. Do you get what I'm saying? HXFX, good afternoon from Colorado Springs, three exclamation marks. Thanks, Jen H. Thanks a lot. And so it says here, it's a handful of emotional skills. Sorry, let me just go back here. Unlike a soldier, a scout's goal isn't to defend one side over the other. It's to go out, survey the territory, and come back with as accurate a map as possible, regardless of what they hope to be the case. Above all, the scout wants to know what's actually true. In the scout mindset, Galef shows that what makes scouts better at getting things right isn't that they're smarter or more knowledgeable than everyone else. It's a handful of emotional skills, habits, and ways of looking at the world. So it doesn't mean you're cleverer or you even have more knowledge of the case. It means in a weird way that you're open-minded, but I think what is really being addressed here is letting the evidence guide you, letting what is unfolding guide you, right? And that is why I made that video very early on, 5 reasons why this isn't an abduction, because there's just no evidence of an abduction. And so let the evidence guide you, kind of thing. It also talks about how Jeff Bezos avoids overconfidence, how super forecasters outperform CIA operatives. Gallup explores why our brains deceive us and what we can do to change the way we think. And then someone wrote here, Julia understands human thinking with incredible clarity. So we're in a situation now where we don't know what the outcome is. We don't know whether Summer's going to be found. We don't know who is responsible. We don't even know if someone is responsible. It could be a situation where there was an accident and no one's responsible. We don't know what the outcome is. We're not talking from the perspective of hindsight. And so just like the Tennessee terrain is very dense and difficult to navigate, this case in a way has become a little bit like that as well. So we need some way to illuminate our thinking. And how are we going to do that, right? How are we going to see our way through this murk? The social media that's forming, the prayers that are being spoken about, all of that stuff's nice, but it's sort of like it's warm and fuzzy. It's not really getting you anywhere in terms of solving this case. That's what we're interested in doing, right? So if we go to the beginning of this book, what is really interesting is that the author says, I don't really know how to define what I'm talking about. I don't think a word exists for it, right? She says, what do you call the admirable virtues, the trait that belongs at the top of the list that's really overlooked? In other words, things that are beyond intelligence, cleverness, courage, or patience, right? In other words, she's saying, what we need is the motivation to see things as they are, not as you wish they were. So, and I say this with respect and love and compassion and empathy. All of us here, I think all of us sitting here, if someone could ask you, would you like summer, what would you like if you could have a wish? If someone could grant you one wish in terms of the thing I'm going to ask you, would you like summer to be alive and safe or not? I don't really know anyone who would say, I wish that summer's not safe. I wish summer's not alive. I don't think anyone would say that. So I think what kind of is universal in this case is that we all wish summer was safe. We all wish summer was alive. We all wish summer could somehow come home, right? Do you get what I'm saying? But there's a world of difference between wishing that's true and seeing things as they are and as they're unfolding. Do you get what I'm saying? We wish that she's safe and alive, but she's been missing for 33 days. And there's been concern that her own parents may not have been telling the truth. Her own parents have been polygraphed several times, right? So is our concern legitimate? Is it right that people that don't know anything about this family are worried about Summer? What is actually going on with Summer? Jen says, no, that doesn't make sense. No need for 4 lie detector tests. And so Julia writes here, the motivation to see things as they are, not as you wish they were, right? And that has been going on with the Madeleine McCann case since May 3rd, 2007. We hope Madeline's alive. We wish Madeline's alive. Is she alive? What does the evidence say? So Julia calls it a scout mindset, the scout mindset to get the information, just let the information say, guys, I think this is what the real situation is. We wish it's this, but I think it is actually that, right? But I give it a different name. I call it authenticity. I call it the authentic narrative. I call it you and me being authentic about something that's happening. And I really appreciate that Julia is talking about something that is very close to my heart, where it's like, let's get real about reality. Let's get real about situations that are taking place that we don't quite understand. Let's be realistic. And what does it mean to be realistic in the world that we're living in? It's becoming harder and harder to say what is authentic, what is the right way of looking at something, where there are so many wrong ways, where so many people are misled and deceived. I think I read somewhere that 12 people are responsible for the bulk of the fake news, I think, on social media about the coronavirus. 12 people. 65% of all the fake news has come from 12 people. It's quite scary. People can influence how other people see reality, but not if you are authentic and you've got discernment. If someone tells you don't judge, don't think, just leave it to the authorities. Leave it to the authorities to do your thinking for you. Then you are going to be more easily misled. But if you can think for yourself, discern, judge for yourself, don't judge a person, judge the information. Draw a map based on what you know. That is valuable. You are going to be a valuable member to society because you are not being misled. So if you think about, Pauline just said that's cult behavior. If you think about people kind of being snapped up by MLM scenarios, right? Those people then snap up other people. But someone who doesn't get snapped up and can say to other people, don't get snapped up and this is happening and that's happening, that person is a credit to society. That person is going to help save other people from going down these rabbit holes that are going to be so difficult to get out of, right? Margie, thank you very much, Margie. Palmer, Violets, the parents, they have put it on the media, okay? Yeah, as you say, yeah. Blossom, Deborah. Tina Kelly, rainy day. I wasn't putting down the house cleaning. I was just saying the story, the boys were cleaning their rooms. Why didn't they come? Okay, I think I'm missing that conversation. Okay, so I'm just going to go a little bit further through just the introduction of this book. Julia writes about our capacity to fool ourselves was a hot topic throughout 2000, 2010. There were best-selling books like How We Know What Isn't So, Predictably Irrational, Why People Believe Weird Things, Mistakes Were Made But Not By Me, You Are Not So Smart, and so on. Denialism, Why Everyone in brackets else is a hypocrite, Thinking Fast and Slow, and so on. So I'm not going to, I don't want to spoil this book for those who want to read it, and I certainly don't want to deprive Julia of readers. So I'm just going to refer to something underlined on the second page. She says, our judgment isn't limited by knowledge nearly as much as it's limited by attitude. What a fantastic quote. What a fantastic quote. What is implicit in this comment is saying that naturally we've got judgment. To say don't judge. Well, when you go and buy clothing, do you judge whether it's going to fit? Do you judge whether it's the right color? Do you judge whether it's quality? Do you judge whether it's good value, right? Do you judge whether it's something that's going to go with your wardrobe? Do you judge that it's something that suits you? All those things. Obviously, you need to use that part of your brain that discerns and evaluates things, right? in terms of yourself, in terms of where you fit into the world and where you fit into the world vis-a-vis other people. And so she says, our judgment isn't limited by knowledge so much. I think to some extent our what we know is limited by knowledge, especially in true crime. So often people will be very upset with me about something I've said, and then, well, if they just knew that, as soon as you explain that to them, well, that changes everything. Oh, I didn't know that. So I do think knowledge does limit our judgment. And of course, if you go to a trial, what isn't known can change the outcome. In the Casey Anthony case, I don't think they really mentioned the internet, what was it? I think the internet searches for chloroform. I'm not sure if that was mentioned, but something wasn't mentioned in the Casey Anthony case that was crucial information. And I think in the O.J. Simpson case, the Bruno Marley, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, Bruno Marley shoes, those ugly ass shoes. I don't know if that was brought up in the criminal trial. Macy, I just saw an article saying that they've found that 65% of misinformation on coronavirus has been spread by 12 people. Just something that was something I saw, I think, on Financial Times. So it's our attitude that really determines what limits our judgment. So if you previously made up your mind, if you've got a previous bias, so for example, in this case, if you say there was an abduction, your attitude to that is going to change everything. On the other hand, if you say, you know what, I believe X is guilty, it's X, that's also going to limit your knowledge, right? If you say, I think it's Y, I actually think Y is guilty. I think there's nothing wrong with having something is guiding your bias, if I can put it that way. You're being pulled in a particular direction, but I don't think you should jump onto that side either. You've still got to keep an open mind to acknowledge we still don't know enough. We know that it's not this, but we still don't know enough to make a decision on that, if that makes sense. In other words, we're still trying to draw our map. Do you get what I'm saying? Kit says critical thinking is something that is sorely lacking with most people. Thinking is difficult. Thinking is painful. I struggled with thinking a lot when I was a younger man. I was taught that you must have a single-minded view about something. You can't be lukewarm. You can't think about something this way and that way. And I've since changed my view on that. I think you should think about the way something is and the way something isn't. It's quite good to have a dualistic view of certain things because that helps you to understand what something is in a better way. So for example, you can say, this is what I mean by dualistic view. A man is a man and a man is not a woman. So you can understand the concept of a man also through the concept of what he is not. And that is giving a different dimension to something by knowing and acknowledging what it isn't, not just what it is. The same with a woman. A woman is a woman, but also a woman is not a man, right? So in other words, something is something, but something is also relative to something else, and perhaps relative to something else that it is not. Do you get what I'm saying? So let's just go on here. In terms of how are they getting away with it, I think our attitude is clouding our ability to see what the answer is to that question. So if we say, how are they managing to get away with it? Do you think the answer is that someone is getting away with something? Let's check this out. the question is, how are they managing to get away with it? Answer 1 if you think, yes, they whoever they is. You're allowed to believe whoever they is in your mind. Answer 1 for someone is getting away with something, and answer 2 with no, not necessarily. Let's have a look. Christy Lee says 1. So the question is, how are they managing to get away with it? 1 is someone is getting away with something. 2, no, not necessarily. So there's quite a mixed bag. Some of you are saying 2, some of you are saying 1. Someone says 4. Lisa Mount says, what are they not getting away with? Okay. So I quite like the fact that there are a lot of you here saying 1 and a lot of you here saying 2, because I think it means that there's room for growth. There's room for people to have a change of mindset, right? 222, Jumpin' Jupiter. Pat Byrne, how do we even know this is real? Could be a ruse. Okay, it's another way of looking at it. Forever Young, they're not actually getting away with anything. Sky Kerrigan, undecided, but probably 1. Okay, so I really appreciate the fact that there are a lot of you saying 1 and a lot of you saying 2, because I'm going to ask the question again, but after I've taken you through a couple of cases. And I'm going to do something very simple. And all I want you to do is, number 1, keep an open mind, and number 2, think your way through what I'm going to talk about, right? And what I mean by that is, we're going to ask the same question, how are they managing to get away with it? We're going to ask that same question in other cases where we know what the result was in hindsight. And through each of these cases, as we go through it, I think you're going to get a different sense of what we're talking about. And then I'm going to ask you the same question again, and we're going to see how you guys answer it. Okay. So I don't know whether I should really go through much else here. She talks about, maybe you hold the common belief that when you're doing something hard, like starting a company, you need to be delusionally overconfident. And I think the same almost applies to true crime, where people think in order to be good at true crime, you've got to be really confident. You've got to be like Sherlock Holmes. You've got to be this brilliant person. And I think it's the opposite. You've got to be someone who simply spends a lot of time on the case, who asks the right questions, not who knows the answers, but who asks the right questions, such as, is this an abduction? Are they telling the truth? Are they showing the right emotion? This is quite an interesting name, Casorigia. I really need help. Oh, it's Brenda. Brenda in Texas. Okay, that helps. Oh, thanks a lot for that. Yeah, I've heard a lot of people saying, I thought you'd be like 70 years old or from India or something. I don't know if you guys have heard, there's a movie or a series out on Netflix with John McEnroe providing the voiceover. It's something I'm really interested in checking out. Someone else said, seeing the world realistically only leads to depression. So this is one of the things Julia's writing about is there are a lot of myths about seeing reality a certain way. And one of them is, wow, if you like with the Summer Wells case, if you're not hopeful, if you're not praying, then is the alternative that you should be depressed and I don't know, just give up and be depressed. No, that's not the alternative. I think I've spent enough time with the introduction, even though there's not really much more to go through, but I might come back to this book in another thing, especially if you guys ask for it. So now we're going to go into the third a dimension of what we're going to deal with in this episode. So the first one was what Dodson was saying, which paints a slightly different perspective on what we know, just as what Alison Harris said did that. Now we've looked at the scout mindset, which is basically try and draw a map without knowing what the map looks like when you started out. So it's almost like you're drawing a map of a place you've never been before, but for goodness sake, don't draw the map without knowing what needs to be on the map. Let what is around you inform the map. Does that make sense? And so now we're going to put that kind of fuzzy kind of hypothesis into action. What does all this mean? How do we take this theory into practice in true crime? And so we're going to do this through a couple of cases. And some of you will know these cases better than others. Don't worry if you don't, because we're going to cut through them quite quickly. So the question is, again, how are they managing to get away with it? And now we're going to go in with the Chris Watts case. Is there another? Openly objective. Just because you're going to die doesn't mean you give up on living. That was such a silly thing to say. Much love. Thanks a lot. That's actually a very good comment there. We are all going to die. It's not a very happy truth. There's nothing we can do about it, and no one's really able to miss that. So, if anything, knowing that means you appreciate life that much more, that you have less patience for nonsense as well, that you try and be authentic and leave this world a better place because it's so precious, because it's valuable, right? So now we're going to take this question now, and I want you to keep it in your mind as we go through these different cases. And we're not letting go of the Summer Wells case, and we're not letting go of the question that we are asking and that people have been asking. How are they managing to get away with it? What we're doing is we're just trying to say, okay, we are located 33 days into this case. What was happening 2 days into that case, 5 days into that one, 33 days into that case, and that one and that one. In other words, we're trying to navigate the Summer Wells case via the intertextuality of other cases. Does that make sense, right? Through this question, how did they manage to get away with it? So here we go. We start with Chris Watts. And the question is, how did Chris Watts manage to get away with it? And the question is, we're asking him this on Monday morning, let's say 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. How did he manage to get away with it? Well, I guess the answer to that is he assumed that that Trinastic's camera wouldn't really pick him up, and he was sort of right. The camera didn't really pick up much, right? Then you go to later in the day. How did he manage to get away with it? Well, he went to the work site and somehow he managed to do what he did. He put, his children in the tanks, and so no one would even guess that was the case, right? Then Nicole Atkinson calls him and he says, please don't call the police. But then they do a welfare check, and then he arrives at the scene and they kind of ask him a couple of questions. And the question is, how did he manage to get away with it? Right now it's Monday afternoon, and they've spoken to Trinastic, and Trinastic has said to Kunrad he's not acting right, and so on, right? How did Chris Watts manage to get away with it? Then let's jump forward in time. Monday night, Monday the 13th of August, Chris Watts isn't arrested. His family are still missing. He's not arrested. There's rumors that he was having an affair. There's rumors that he's not acting right. How did he? But then they don't arrest him on Monday night, right? Then he does his sermon on the porch on the Tuesday, and it's very kind of suspicious. Nobody really buys it. Everyone's worried about it. How did he manage to get away with it? So even at this point, he's not arrested. He seems to feel pretty confident that everything's fine. Do you get what I'm saying? And then on Tuesday night, I think he was driving somewhere. Not quite sure where he was headed, but he was driving somewhere and he got a call. Chris, do you mind coming into the police station? Now you say, how did he manage to get away with it? Well, the police have asked him to come in. Well, isn't that what they asked Don and Candace to do? And so Chris Watts went in and he spoke to the FBI for 4 hours. And then he was very tired and the FBI agent said, do you want to go home? Do you want to get some sleep? You look tired. And then Chris Watts went home. Now it's Tuesday night. How did Chris Watts manage to get away with it? At that point, he has gotten away with it. But is he out of the woods? Or is he a suspect? Has he been named a suspect in the media? So someone says Chris Watts' conscience immediately affected him. You need to be, okay. Julie Levine, I knew you were South African, but thought you were older. Thanks for that. But do you guys follow where I'm walking you through this? Do you guys follow what I'm trying to illustrate here? Is that someone can be a suspect and they can be guilty, and they can get a sense that they're getting away with it, and the public may have the sense that why is nobody arrested? Is there not a suspect? Does nobody know what's going on? Well, guess what's happening? The authorities are investigating. They're getting the information. They're still getting the information. They need to speak to lots of different people. They need to speak to friends. They need to draw up their map, and they need to say, you know what? We've now spoken to 4 or 5 different people. They all say the same thing. This doesn't look right. They all say the same thing about that particular area. Do you follow what I'm saying? And so they asked Chris Watts to come back the next day, the Wednesday, right? And asked him to take a polygraph, and he takes the polygraph. And his father is there as well. And they eventually say, he eventually says, please, I just need to speak to my father. Really, he's come all the way here. And the authorities allow him to do that. And that's when he breaks down, and that's when he kind of confesses, right? And then you say, how are they managing to get away with it? But Chris Watts didn't get away with it. But it appeared as if he was getting away with it in the beginning. And one of the ways that it appeared that way was the authorities didn't say, Chris, we know you've been having an affair. Stop lying to us. The buck stops here. They allowed Chris Watts to believe that they didn't know as much as they knew. Do you follow what I'm saying? So how are they managing to get away with it? Well, that's not happening. They're not getting away with something, but they're being led to believe that. Did someone get a fright? Okay. So that's the Chris Watts case. But now I want you guys to kind of lead the way through the next one. I want you guys to think about what I've just done now, right? So again, we're thinking about it in the context of the Summer Wells case, where you're thinking, how did they manage to get away with it? But at the same time, you're thinking, did they get away with it? Have they gotten away with it? Is someone getting away with something? And so if you take, for example, I think quite a good example is the Oscar Pistorius case, but it's totally different, where he kind of admits everything in the beginning, but the admission is kind of a lie. So he says, I thought she was a burglar. And so he gets sentenced and he gets convicted of manslaughter, but he actually kind of totally dodges the original charge. And then you say, how's he managing to get away with this? He clearly did this, that, and that. And I was certainly one of the people very early on that said, this is definitely not an accident. And he shouldn't be, his sentence is shockingly light. And so this is in the context of the criminal system in court. And so after a long, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but after a long time, he was tried again and found guilty, and so he didn't get away with that either. And that's the other side of the story, is that the law can sometimes take a while to gather steam and to get its full perspective on something that is going on. The O.J. Simpson's quite a good example of that as well. How is he managing to get away with this? Well, there was a civil trial where he didn't get away with it. Do you follow what I'm saying? So you've got to be careful making that assumption that people don't have, that something is just happening like this, that there's just no information and that it's just injustice and it's not right. It takes a long time to build a case. It takes a long time to get to know these people and to get to know how deep the rabbit hole goes. It takes time. And we are, in our society, we used to instant results. We used to, something is either on or off. Something is either black or white. Something is either this or that. But sometimes you need time to build your case. And so sometimes it's not a this or that answer, it's somewhere in between as you're trying to get from one point to the other. Stephanie makes a really good point. She says, no arrest doesn't mean corruption. I've also heard that. In the Gannon store case, so that's where a little boy also went missing, but didn't actually go missing. I think Letitia was arrested about a month later. So if you guys can remember that case, it happened in Colorado, I think Colorado Springs. Gannon I think he went missing around about January 27th. And then Letitia was arrested somewhere around the 1st of March or the 3rd of March. So essentially the whole of February went by, and then Letitia was arrested. And we're kind of at that same point now. In terms of the Summer Wells case and the Gannon store case, we're at the same point. I don't know if they found as much as they found in the Gannon store case in terms of Gannon. I don't know if that's the case here, and somehow don't think so. And they also had CCTV footage or surveillance footage in the Gannon store case. In this case, there is a little bit of surveillance footage from, I think, that guy on the bicycle and what we know about the red truck. Someone said, read Boy Interrupted. That is, Sky Kerrigan says, read Boy Interrupted by TCRS on this case. Read or read. Mace Windu. That's an excellent point. And you touching on exactly what I wanted to touch on, which is look at Barry Morphew. Do you think Barry Morphew thought, how am I managing to get away with this? Do you think somebody else, in terms of the Barry Morphew case, said, how did someone get away with what happened to Suzanne Morphew? And all of that has been a ploy by that police department to be very coy. I think what is definitely a factor, and it definitely is part of the conversation, is there was a change in district attorney, right? Good point. Sylvia Brown, has Don been on Facebook? Susan Crick, what is the most recent valid camera surveillance of summer? I'm not sure, but I think it might be the bicycle. But what's really interesting, and we get this from the Gannon store case. Loris, thanks very much. What's very interesting is you can have surveillance footage from a gas station. You can have it from any of the little houses en route, and that can give an indication. Did Candace go straight home from the watering hole? What was Candace's route? Where was she going? So just a gas station is going to provide some footage, just as even ATMs can provide CCTV footage. A lot of people have got dash cams on their cars these days. Even that can provide information. Cell phones can provide information about movement. And there are some timestamps to the videos Candace herself took that place her in certain places, and some of the background place her in certain places. But in the Barry Morphew case, look how long it took. It was like nothing, no information, no reason to suspect Barry, nothing. And then almost bang on the 1 year anniversary, everything happens. And so you had exactly that. How is he managing to get away with this? Well, he wasn't managing. And we found out that there were all these witnesses and that there were all these serious problems. There was the smell of bleach, or not bleach, chlorine in the hotel, and all these problems. And now Barry's gotten legal representation. But I think Suzanne's family was probably thinking at some point, how is he managing to get away with it? But he wasn't. Stephanie says, and look at how much information they collected, right? What I'm trying to do, I don't know how many of you here are true crime aficionados, as one channel calls you, regulars on true crime, and how many of you are just here because of Summer Wells and you sort of paying attention to it for the first time. What I'm trying to do is kind of help you guys to see how the larger process works, so that you don't get lost in the day-to-day details. So in other words, I want you to feel confident that law enforcement actually knows more than they're letting on. And they likely do have a suspect. They likely have someone they want to arrest and want to prosecute. But they're not saying that right now. Snowline says, guilty. I'm a regular true crime junkie. So let's do a quick survey. Put down a 1 if you're a regular true crime junkie, or a 2 if this is the first case you really paid attention to. Let's have a look. There are quite a few 1s. 1. I haven't seen any 2s. There's a 2 from Susan. There's another one from Scooby Mom. Okay, and another one from Ginger Snap Judy. So most of you here know true crime, but even if you know true crime, you kind of got to remind yourself that things aren't always what they seem, right? Do you guys agree with that? And it's done like that on purpose. In the same way that the accused, that the suspects are playing a game of cat and mouse, the authorities are doing the same thing. The authorities don't want to play their hand. They certainly don't want to overplay their hand, right? If they're going to prosecute or arrest, they want it to stick. And in a case where there's a cover-up, then there's the real risk that it's going to become unstuck. So they need time to build their thing. This is the other thing that's really important. The moment the authorities play their hand, the moment they say, we have a suspect, we've charged X, then there's a certain amount of time where they've got to provide all their discovery. They've got to provide everything they have. So it's almost like the moment that they say they identify a suspect, they've almost got to stop and just hand over everything they've got. So the longer they take to build their case, the longer they've got to build their case, and the more they get to build their case. And if you've got people who are sort of, saying, like on social media, kind of just blowing their trumpets on social media, just saying this and saying that, the law enforcement are rubbing their hands. Because every time they do that, they are providing another version, or they're providing another inconsistency, or they are providing another card that law enforcement can say, thank you, thanks for that, thank you. Coming back to, is Don missing? I don't know. We might know by tomorrow. I would think if he was missing, it would have made the news. Casey Anthony, what was that comment? I saw someone say something about Casey Anthony. I can't find it. There it is. Okay. So Casey Anthony is also a good case where in the beginning, the authorities held her for, I think, for lying to them. That was sort of the charge. And if you think about it, it was 6 months before Kaylee was found. And then reality was really kind of setting in. And bear in mind, in the Casey Anthony case, despite a massive search and several searches, Kaylee wasn't eventually found by a searcher. Kaylee was found by a utility worker kind of going for a leak by accident. And even this utility worker had phoned in a tip and they didn't take it seriously. So Grandma Green, thanks a lot, Grandma. Are you from Canada? Thanks a lot for that. And that brings us to the Laurie Vallow case. And those who know that case, for me, what is crazy is that the Laurie Vallow case isn't 10 times bigger than the Chris Watts case, because if people have been hysterical about Nicole Kessinger, people have demonized her and hated on her, then I don't know I think Laurie Vallow is 10 times worse. Laurie Vallow is accused of killing her own children, killing her ex-husband, being complicit, I guess, in a conspiracy to kill her new husband's wife, misleading all sorts of people. I don't know, like, and yet there's just sort of I kind of get the sense that because it's not as black and white as someone having an affair, even though Laurie Vallow did have an affair, because it's not as black and white as the Chris Watts case, there's just like a shrugging. It's like, we don't know how bad this is, and it's just so confusing, so let's go on to another case. And that's poor form. It's poor form for the true crime community. But in the Laurie Vallow case, you had 2 children going missing. And not the parents, but kind of the grandparents, really, of the one child, really running around trying to figure out what is going on. And yet they remained missing, right? And look how long it took to find their remains. I mean, look how long that took. Look how long the charges took, even when it seemed obvious what the charges were. You know, people were saying, you know, are they going to be charged with this and that? And it was like obvious that they were, but they still weren't charged. But then the charges did eventually come out. Why? Because law enforcement, the prosecution, are dealing with a complicated and difficult case, and they need to keep the cards close to their chests. And so people may have also thought, it may have felt like a very legitimate question, how they're managing to get away with it. So obvious, the kids have died, the kids are missing, they found these children buried on Chad's property. How are they getting away with it? How can there not be these charges? And I think we've got to be more sophisticated than that. I think it's a great question, but I think you've also got to answer the question. And the answer to that question is law enforcement are a lot smarter than you may think. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation aren't dumb. They aren't schmucks. The FBI wasn't born yesterday. They are playing a smart game, and they are outsmarting the other people in this game. They are outsmarting them. And as I said in the beginning to one of my videos, the answer is time. The answer to solving these difficult crimes that are difficult to unravel is time, is the timeline. The answer to, is this person telling the truth? Does this make sense? Is this person a suspect or not? Is this person beyond reproach? Is this version trustworthy? The answer is time. Why is law enforcement not doing anything? Time. They're trying to build their case. So let me ask you that question again. How are they managing to get away with it? Number one is, do you think they are getting away with it? And number two is, no, not necessarily. Let me ask you again, asking the question again, how are they managing to get away with it? Number one is, I don't know how they're managing to get away with it. Two is, no, they're not necessarily getting away with it. I just want to thank Justice Jenny. Good to see you here again. Wait for it. Thanks a lot. So I see almost everyone's answering with a 2 now. That's really good to see. Some of you said 2 in the beginning and you're saying 2 again. So that's really good to see. And that's the point I've been trying to make. And, you can make the point saying it. It's like the Matrix. Nobody can tell you what the Matrix is. You've got to see it for yourself. And so when you go through the true crime intertextuality, the other cases, you can actually feel and see how law enforcement are playing their game. And law enforcement over a period of time have realized how to play the game. If you take the John Benet Ramsey case, that's a very complicated version of how they're managing to get away with this. That's probably the most complicated answer to that question. Because, well, you could say somebody did get away with something, or you could say there was something wrong with the prosecution side of things, or both. So that's quite a difficult, that's a kind of a counter to what you're talking about here. I'm not going to take it too much further than that. Sarah Black, thank you very much, Sarah. Living life in Hawaii. I haven't seen you in a long time. Good to see you. If she was close to the house, bird swarm above, someone was removed by someone. I think that the more time that goes by, the more likely it is that Summer may have been transferred and then transferred again. And once that happens, it's very difficult. And that is what happened in the Letitia Storr case. Creatively inspired by Denise. Okay, William Thompson. Someone got away with taking her sister. Absolutely. Now that is a very good yes, but that's a very good point you're making. William, I do hope that that what is happening now might change that outcome. It might be that what is happening now is someone who played their hand 12 years ago overplaying their hand now. Who knows? Julie Levine, they're not getting away with it. As you said, thorough investigation takes time. Now, if you've followed my kind of approach, my attitude, when I said, how are they managing to get away with it? I haven't really identified they. They can be anyone. I think some of you have an idea in your mind who they could be. But once again, all I'm saying is you can have an approach to true crime where instead of judging and pointing a finger and labeling someone and being on that team and being on that side, instead of doing that, you allow the information to inform you. And instead of labeling something and pointing to something and judging something, you can what's the word? You can not attack, but you can oppose and you can argue against the defense case, if that makes sense. So in other words, you interrogate the information and you say, the logic here isn't sound. The timeline here doesn't make sense. And so in other words, what you know, in other words, what you've been told from the defense side, from the non-law enforcement side, from the non-prosecution side. In other words, the version of events that you are getting, you can nevertheless interrogate and analyze and say why that doesn't make sense. Does that make sense? Okay. It's kind of an indirect way of pointing a finger, I guess one could say. Yaya Kelly, my son-in-law was a detective. I know their tactics. That's good to hear. Linda says Delphi is also a complicated case. It is. Stephanie says, Deborah Davies, thank you. Sherry says, it's like a puzzle you put together. And I think that's such a good analogy. It's a simple analogy, but it's very effective. And the analogy is you figure out a puzzle based on the pieces that aren't there. So when you start a puzzle, you sort of know how many pieces to look for when none of them are there, right? You know what I mean? Rochelle Sean, Nick, can you speak on the prosecution getting just one bite at the apple and double jeopardy? It's I think a little bit soon to be doing that. Double jeopardy basically just means you can't try a person on the same charges again, right? But that is true. You effectively only get one chance to state your case, right? And if you're, bear in mind, when an arrest warrant is issued, you need kind of probable cause. You've got to have a reasonable case where someone's going to say, okay, you can arrest this person. You've got to have enough information where that can happen. You're going to be in a very bad position if you go to a judge and you say, well, this person disappeared. You know what? The mother doesn't look like she's showing much emotion. The judge is going to say, sorry, that's not enough. And if that person comes back to the judge is going to say, you again, you were the one who came here based on that. And so that law enforcement person or whatever is already going to lose credibility. So you want to be a credible pursuer of justice, but you've also got to have a credible case based on facts. And the bigger your puzzle that has been filled in, the better. There are always going to be pieces missing, but it's when the puzzle is, in the eyes of law enforcement, maybe 60% finished, 60% filled in, that they can feel, okay, let's hand this over. Let's let the wheels of justice start rolling, start turning. You must also bear in mind the moment the clock stops on the investigation, in a sense, all of that information also gets handed over to the defendant, to the suspect. So the suspect will know not only what you know, but what you don't know. And the longer they take to find out things, the more they're going to know, the less they're going to not know. Okay. Laura Bell has put up a 1. I don't know if you're late in terms of the vote. We'll see. Macy, will the police put listening devices in the Wells home? I don't think that is legal. I don't think, it's possible that you could have something like CPS saying, well, we need to make sure. I don't know, but I would guess it's not legal. We're not quite living in a big brother society just yet. I wouldn't be surprised if there are some kind of patrol vehicles in the area. Something that David Dodson said that I thought was really interesting was he said that Candace and Don observed people walking around the woods at night with flashlights. That's something I wouldn't mind asking him more about. Like, so how did they see that? So in other words, where were Don and Candace, or I don't know if it's one or both of them, where were they that they saw people walking around the woods with flashlights? In other words, what I'm kind of asking is, were Don and Candace walking in the woods at night that they saw other people walking in the woods with flashlights? I would just be curious how that information came about. It reminds me of my school. You weren't allowed, when you were in high school, I don't know what it's like with you guys, you weren't allowed to drink alcohol. And so I remember it was a Monday in assembly, and someone said, you're in trouble. And they were identifying this young kid. You're in trouble because we saw you drinking, blah, 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 blah. And then everyone gasped and everyone was aghast, right? But then someone asked the question, who saw the person drinking? Anyway, Frankie Carey. Thanks, Frankie. I like your accent. Thanks for the updates. Thanks a lot. Ali Brewer, what does a red line beside my name mean? Not sure. Not sure what that means. Valerie Meadows. Sorry, your comment was too long. It's just sort of flying up. Was Don around when Rose went missing? Good question. Stephanie's just put up Candace's YouTube channel, and my voice is definitely going. Yeah, thanks a lot. Tracy Marie, have you spoken about the Amber Alert being taken down? It's interesting. It shows the abduction idea the family wants to push out isn't shared. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the Amber Alert is still in place. It's just been taken off the digital billboards, right? So the Amber Alert's very much in place, meaning some is still in imminent danger, but it's just been taken down from the billboards, right? But thanks for your comment, Tracy. Now, I think that's quite a good example of something that is a misperception that becomes really widespread, where people might read in the media or someone might say something like that, and it's technically true. The Amber Alert has been taken down from the billboard. It's still very much in place because the situations that prompted the Amber Alert are still very much in place. But all I'm saying is, can you see how easy it is for a statement that is technically true to be perceived in a totally different way? And that is why you've got to have the scout mindset of, I'm going to let the evidence guide me. I'm not going to kind of jump to conclusions. I'm going to be careful in my information gathering. I'm not going to try and have the information. I'm not going to try and put the information in a pipe. I'm going to try and let the information, the puzzle that it is, the picture that it is, the pixels that are there, I'm going to let it form what it is. I'm not going to turn the fuzziness into what I'm seeing or what I want to see. I'm going to let what is there, I'm going to take my attitude away so that I can see what reality is. Reality is there, it's just being hidden. Reality is there, it's just being covered, or our thinking is being pushed from in one direction or another, right? Sabrosa Light, #1 fan. Thanks, Sabrosa Light from Canada. Thanks a lot. Now, tech is possible to listen in on the case. Pauline Buckles, like a collage with your photos. Yeah. On my book covers, I try and depict the murkiness and the shifting of reality by putting images over one another and changing the words, the colors of the font and so on, so that they sort of distort. And what I'm trying to do is show you how you can see something that's right in front of you. It's a familiar photo, but it's been distorted with sort of transparent lines and other images and so on. And can you see the mosaic? And then can you see like the ghost in the machine? Can you see the thing inside the noise? Because it's there. Can you see the signal inside the noise? That's what I try and often convey with my books, just because you have so many different, in true crime, it's all about, you have so many different versions of events. There are so many different stories, but of course, there's only one authentic narrative. The authentic narrative is the objective truth, what really happened. And there are all these attempts to make that difficult to see. One of the things is, Candace said, she I don't know if she was looking for the kids for 20 minutes, but there's another thing that she was on camera. She said she looked away for 2 minutes. That alone is unrealistic. Laura Bell's now just put up a 2. Thanks, Laura. Bible Art Gifts, Yorkshire. Nick, I have so far read all Silver Fox and 4K9 books. 4K9 books, that means you've got another 5 to go. I'm about to start narrating the Mysterious Mistress on Patreon, so the patrons on the $10 tier are in for a treat. Speaking of the Chris Watts case, today's sort of the first time the Secret Calculator app made its appearance, and I sort of feel like that with the Secret Calculator app, Chris Watts' secret life and what he was intending to happen. In other words, I think his motive was really crystallizing at the same time as the Secret Calculator. I think that the Secret Calculator was sort of a metaphor for the secret side to Chris Watts, in my mind. That, in other words, Chris Watts was also becoming a secret calculator at that point. Please, can someone tell me when listening devices are legal to be used? Sure, that's quite a tough question. It's quite a tough question. First of all, you've got to apply for it. I think it's when, I think they are often used in a situation where there's drug trafficking, or there's what kind of widespread conspiracy. But I think the difficulty with that is somebody using surveillance for their own benefit. In other words, I want to spy on you to benefit me, not for justice, right? That's the difficulty of it. And people have got rights. Ordinary citizens have got rights not to be spied upon. I don't know, it's a really good question. It's a good question. Maybe I'll deal with that. I don't know the answer to that just because it's not come up a lot in true crime. Interestingly enough, it did come up in the Ramsey case, where Detective Steve Thomas complained that camera equipment had been put inside the Ramsey home that I think was effectively listening in on what they were saying, without them knowing. Of course, you do have listening in with interrogations, but that's a little bit different, and people are clearly informed, we are recording this kind of thing. And then there's also the body cams, which also do that to some extent as well. Thanks, Bible Art Gifts Yorkshire. Thanks a lot. Every state has different laws. Macca7. It's probably an old email address. Well, I don't know if it's so old because he said it on air about 8 days ago. So I don't know. I think it's still one that he uses. Has anyone got a response from David Dodson? Stephanie says, thank you so much for being a part of the live, for your support of the channel. and for learning and growing here and focusing on a case that has touched us all and joined us here together. So that's Stephanie, just thanking all of you guys for being here. I see we're heading to the 2-hour mark, and we still had about 1,200 people watching, but I think I'm going to be saying bye-bye in about 5 minutes. What are your thoughts on the Morphew case in Colorado? I can't wait for the affidavit to come out. I think it's looking to be an incredible case. I think if you wanted a case, like the Chris Watts case, to go to trial, I think the Morphew case is going to go to trial. And not only that, he's got 2 top-notch defense lawyers, and I think that's going to be an incredible trial. I don't know what else I can say about that. I do think what remains a mystery is, were Susan Morphew's remains ever found, or was some evidence of her remains ever found, which is a little bit different. You could have very small amount of remains like DNA or a tooth fragment, as in the Patrick Frazee case. But I'd be interested to know what law enforcement found, especially because they kept that case so close to their chest for so long. Valerie says, because I love true crime, I got a subpoena to jury duty. I'm kind of excited. Oh, you must let us know. Are you allowed to tell us which case? I suppose you're not allowed to talk about certain things. Will it be televised? I know that Barry is, and certainly his lawyers are trying quite hard to prevent that from happening, to protect the daughters. And, in the Patrick Frazee case, you had a media blackout, basically, which a case that could have easily overshadowed the Watts case ended up kind of disappearing just because of the media embargo, because they were trying to protect the plea deal there. Justice for Summer. D. Goodwin, hi true crime, hi there. Cindy Johnson, I feel closer to getting this all solved. So I think, you can bear in mind with the Casey Anthony case, I think there was a time where people thought she's never going to be found, and where people basically had given up. And then she was found. And it took about 6 months. There was the sort of cover-up of what had happened to her, which was 31 days, right? From the last day that she was seen to when her mother freaked out about the smell in the I think the Pontiac. And then after that, 6 months went by. So that's how long this can take. In the Laurie Vallow case, you also get an idea it can take months to locate human remains. But things like looking at the cell phone records can give you a good idea of what people's movements were and things like that. I do think that the disappearance of Rosemary Bly doesn't bode well for this case. I think that is something that is almost like a warning. Don't count your chickens before they hatch, kind of thing, as someone else also mentioned here. David Dodson speaks on Facebook Messenger. Deborah asks, is this now a death case? No, it's not. The question is it likely that Summer is safe? Is it likely that Summer is alive? Is it likely that Summer was abducted? Is it likely that we're going to find Summer? Antoinette de Jager, Somerset West, Western Cape. Thanks, Summer. Thanks, Antoinette. I quite like Somerset West. I quite like that area, Strand and so on. Beach Creek is a very rough area. Are you from that area, Clam Digger? Susan Crick, I truly believe June 15th report of someone missing is throwing authorities off. Oh, okay. Lolo says it's not likely she's alive. The Joy Catcher says missing and missed, but reality is the odds aren't good. I think in a previous episode, I was just showing how a lot of these alerts go. The TBI put up an alert. I can't remember the girl's name now, but she was quite a cute little girl. I think she was 9 years old with curly brown hair and blue eyes. And within an hour, they found her. It can take an hour or a day. It's very unusual that not only is there no idea what could have happened, but this length of time with no idea with what could have happened, and that strongly suggests foul play. And the fact that the authorities haven't said it is an abduction suggests they strongly believe it isn't an abduction. Bettina Etienne, sadly, I don't think she's okay or safe. And what I find quite interesting is you have some channels and some people that sort of insist, they sort of say, we hope that she's going to come back safe. We just pray. You can, but how much time must go by before you sort of acknowledge that something serious may have happened and has probably happened? At what point do you draw a line and say, I'm going to stop hoping. I'm going to stop, I don't know if you need to stop praying, but, we've now got to move from trying to find, this is quite an important point. At some point you may have to move from trying to find Summer to trying to find who did something / to Summer, right? And sometimes it happens that you first find the missing person. Did it happen in the Watts case? Did they first find the missing people? Or you first find and charge the suspect. Think about the Laurie Vallow case. What happened there? Did they first find the remains and then the charges? Think about the Barry Morphew case. If you think about the Barry Morphew case, was Suzanne ever found? And in a scenario like that where a year goes by, do you still sort of wait? Well, maybe in the fullness of time we're gonna something will come up, right? Well, law enforcement can't work that way. They've got to. Someone says, Diane says, what books are you the author of? Thank you, Dan. Stephanie, can you put a link up there for her? If you go into my YouTube title page, it says there's like an icon on that sort of rocket sciencey part where you see the rocket flare going up the street. It says author's page on Amazon. So if you click on that, that'll show you. But I've written books on Gannon Stork, Madeleine McCann, John Benet Ramsey, O.J. Simpson, Chris Watts, quite a few books. I'm quite sad that I haven't written any books on Laurie Vallow or the Morphew case. I would certainly like to, but yeah, I'm in a situation where Stephanie is going to gym, and I'm really jealous of that. I'm jealous of the fact that she's able to go to gym when I'm not as fit and healthy and as I'd like to be, because I'm spending so much time investigating these cases, and I kind of want to spend more time mountain biking and doing that kind of stuff just to balance things out. But I see it kind of as my job as a kind of true crime professional, when a high-profile case like this comes about, I want to be on it. I want to kind of be the go-to channel for breaking news, the first insights, the first real proper analysis kind of thing, you know. But I am feeling quite blue that I haven't written a book about the Laurie Vella case, because it's such a uniquely complicated and challenging case. I do think once the Barry Morphew affidavit comes out, it's going to be hard not to want to conjure a narrative, because it's going to be a narrative. We know it's a really long affidavit. Sorry. Thanks, Stephanie. Stephanie put up a link to my books. I've written over 100 books, including on the 96 Everest disaster, and even on the West Memphis 3 case, and Casey Anthony, that's in the Treachery series, and so on. Thanks, Mercy K. That's kind of you. Lisa Mouse, I'm looking forward to the trial on the Doomsday Couple. I'm also, but it looks like that's being delayed and frustrated. We'll see what happens there. Oh my God, caught alive. Let's just see who's that. Nyoka's take on tarot. Glad you made it. Snowline says, definitely the go-to channel for in-depth true crime and intertextuality. One thing that's a bit different with me than other channels is, because I've written so many books about other cases, not just one, but series of books. So in the Rebecca Zahau case, I've written 2 books. You start to feel the relationship certain cases have with one another. You start to notice things like the hyoid bone becomes a classical kind of artifact of, for example, manual strangulation. You notice it in the Chris Watts case, you notice it in several different cases. Another one is the Jason Roeder case, South African case, but also the Rebecca Zahau case. And then you start seeing evidence artifacts that are intertextual, but then also statements. People make the same stories, that they have the same things that are going on, and you start to learn that when there's a lack of effect, it almost always does mean something. Almost every time people say, no, people grieve in a different way. But when someone is sort of a suspect, and there's sort of a consistent problem of just not showing emotion, especially with the children that are lost. You might have mixed feelings about, a husband you were going to divorce, losing his life or whatever. But, if it's a child, you can imagine anyone being brokenhearted, whatever. You can imagine someone just being really brokenhearted about it. But there's something totally different when you're trying to defend yourself. There's a total different mindset to self-defense and self-preservation than to grief. When you're grieving, you're spilling out, right? When you are defending yourself, you're holding back. It's kind of opposite. If emotions are tapped, the one is letting something out, the other one is holding something back, and you can't have them both happen at the same time. Dude, you can't be as helpful if you feel like crap. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'm not totally unfit. I do walk my dog every day. I do some, but I certainly would like to be a lot. I've got a friend who's really taking names as a cyclist and a mountain bike rider, and I'm feeling outdone by him, but we'll see. Amy Margolin says the behavior panel said they believe the parent. So, that's something that's going to be a test of the credibility of this channel and of that channel, Not that one case makes or breaks a channel, but it certainly shows you who is on the right track and which approach makes more sense. Can you base your entire approach on a case on someone's eye movements or tone of voice? or do you need to know a little bit about the case to know how to cross-reference those eye movements? I did thank Diane. Hey, let's just look at some of your comments. Belinda van den Heefer. Not sure what that's for. Annette McKay, famous mountain biking trails here, really. Where are you? Petechial hemorrhage, that's also a classic one. Well said, Patricia. Did you follow the Daniel Morecambe case? No. The behavior panel believed Meghan Markle. That's quite funny. Yeah. My pleasure. Thanks, Diane. Okay, so guys, while we're at 10 past or 2 hours, 10 minutes, it's kind of about 10 minutes past my cutoff time. Sally Holden, Nick, you can get in shape quickly. I'm in a similar situation. I'm having trouble. I have faith in you. Oh, thanks, Sally. Do you ever use physics to help you solve cases? All the time. Maybe not. It's not as science as you might think, but in the Chris Watts case, you had things like chemicals and the autopsy results in toxicology, things like blood alcohol levels, things like that. You do need to have pretty high quality forensic science, right? It's important to know things like the temperature of a day, or certain days, when the sun came up, when the sun goes down. The digital data trail is becoming more and more important in terms of like a phone data review. It's incredibly important in the Laurie Vallow case. Like, I don't think they would have come close to where they are without the cell phone data in that particular case. It is becoming a key way to look into these cases. Jackie Blue, thanks a lot, Jackie. Yeah, I see your fox is laughing. My little doggy is sleeping. Any other questions from you guys? So if you guys are enjoying this channel, you might want to join the Patreon community. It's patreon.com/TCRS. So on there, we normally have a series on the Laurie Vallow case, on the John Benet Ramsey case. So a series is something that repeats on one particular day of the week, every week. I also cover ongoing news of high-profile cases on there. And then, of course, the audiobooks. There are the shorter audiobooks on the $5 tier and the long audiobooks on the $10 tier. And it's a chance for those who've read my books to engage with me about, well, I read this, I didn't know this or I didn't know that. And, in the Madeleine McCann case, for example, you're going through media archives dating back to 2007. And if you had to start doing that right now, you might struggle to find some of those stories. And even now, as I review some of the books I wrote a couple of years ago, a lot of those links have been taken down. So you got information that was quite rare and quite special. Something I came across just today was that Jerry McCann played tennis with an older couple just a few days after Madeleine disappeared. Would a grieving father do that? Would you do that? Would you go and play tennis if your child had disappeared like the next day or the day after? And some people might say yes. What else can you do? And other people would say no. I mean, I'm not Summer's mother or father, but I sort of feel like I don't really have time to do certain things that I want to do because I want to know what's happening, right? But, some people are different. Brianna says the host is very nice to his viewers. Thanks for that. The joy catcher, I wondered the same. So something, just a sneak preview for you guys that are still here. I don't know how many of you are interested in the Madeleine McCann case. Let's just have a look. 12-Step Woman says, I love the conversations we have on. Alison says, me, Sammy Lee, me, yes, me, I am, yes. Okay. So you guys are in for a treat tomorrow. I don't know if I've got the energy to do it now. I didn't mean to write something on Patreon tonight, but I'm going to be putting up a video tomorrow. Do you guys know about the Chinese boy who was abducted and he was missing for 24 years and then they found him? Do you guys know about that? So I'm going to be looking at that case, and I don't know if you know that the McCanns have sort of put that case on their Facebook page to sort of say, you see, it can happen. You see, someone can go missing for decades and all end happily ever after. And so I'm going to be providing the authentic narrative to that BS. I'm going to be looking at that case and showing you why it's nothing like the Madeleine McCann case. I'm going to be taking you through the facts of the one case and applying it to the other one. Costa Rica, I remember you gave me your name. Was it Brenda? Yes, knew about the boy. I like Peter Hyatt's statement analysis. Okay, I often hear about him. No, hate waiting for the time. So I'm going to be putting that up and something also on the Summer Wells case. Are you guys aware of the new last photo, or I should say new in inverted commas last photo? Do you guys want me to talk about that? I'm not going to talk about it here because I need to show it to you. 12-Step Woman says, thank you for covering multiple cases instead of only one. Thanks. Kim, I've never heard of that case. Which case? What about the West boys? You mean the West Memphis boys? Yeah, you're right, in spite of, because of. Did you find him? No, I didn't find him. I don't know. Patricia, who are you talking to? Jen H says, thank you, beautiful Stephanie. I must also say thanks to Stephanie for moderating. Thanks to Bria as well, 12-Step Woman, Steph as well. Yes, I have written about the West Memphis 3. That's quite a troubling case. I've also written 2 books about Stephen Avery. That's another big case in a way. The Making a Murderer series was based on that. Oh, West Boys from Cal City. No, I don't know about that. Sorry. Daniel Morecambe was kidnapped, missing for 10 years. Okay. Gigi Jardine, I need an evening nap after this. Okay. Stacey P is here with us too. Stacey, I sometimes feel like I neglect to mention you. Thank you very much, Stacey. I sometimes get confused between, is there Steph G and a Stacey P? Sharon Tuck says, I highly recommend True Crime Rocket Science on Patreon. Thanks for that. Bettina Etienne, Avery case does still fascinate me. Yeah. Diane says, Stephen Avery has always baffled me. Must admit, I don't trust him. Diane, have you read my books on Stephen Avery? The one book is called Fool's Paradise, and the other one, I think, is called Fool's Gold. So check that out. That's also a case where you have a poor fellow. You know, Stephen Avery kind of comes from like a junkyard. I kind of refer to him as a junkyard prince, and a lot of people didn't like that reference. But there's no doubt that he wasn't a very wealthy fellow, but he was about to win was it $35 million? I don't know, but he was about to get a lot of money for wrongful imprisonment when this crime happened. Kimberly says the father of Summer is missing, question mark. Yeah, question mark. People are talking about it. It's not, I would have thought if he was, it would have been in the media. The media would have said something. Alina Wolf, have you ever been contacted by law enforcement to speak on a case? Not by law enforcement, but I've been contacted by prosecutors. So if I was sitting in on a case or even tweeting on one, I have spoken to prosecutors in 3 or 4 cases where they were interested in what I had to say, and I think I did contribute something. In one particular case, I said something, and I could have sworn in the judgment, when the judge pronounced the verdict, read out the verdict, I could have sworn my words were being read back to me. I don't know whether that's a coincidence or not, but that was quite whether it happened or not, it was quite a thrill to hear what I thought and hear the judge actually saying it. That was quite a moment. Oh, sorry to hear that, Diane. Belfast Flower, did you notice Robin saying she grabbed snacks to head out for the night? I'm not really suspicious of Robin. Not really suspicious of her. Deborah Shop, have you ever used or heard of other law enforcement using psychic mediums? Yes, I have. I personally don't really believe in that. But some of these mediums do have a reputation, as in some of them sometimes are helpful. It's not that I don't believe in that stuff at all. My father is a, what do they call it? Is it a dowser, where they can find water, and they've actually used him a couple of times to find boreholes because he's so good at it, and he's taught me how to do it. And I don't think I'm anywhere as good as he is, but I think I also have that gift or an intuition or whatever it is, where you can feel the water. So there are some things that can't, I don't want to say they can't be explained, but they're not necessarily completely logical in a way. What is a doused? Someone says water witching. I think they call it a douse. Is it a dowser? Dowsing. Yeah. Well, just doing that search on my computer, my phone connection timed out. Just shows you how the connection is a bit fragile. I don't know whether it's got something to do with what's going on in South Africa at the moment. I know some of the infrastructure's possibly been affected. Water divining, a diviner, yeah. It's also known as a dowser, D-O-W-S-E-R. What did you say? The joy catcher, I feel it, and that's why I spend more time here, actually. It's a gift that can't be entirely explained. Okay. You can use copper rods for water searching. Okay. My father would use just a bent piece of wire, and then you walk, and then the wire swings in the direction where you're sort of crossing a water source. But then he said he could do the same without any wire, and he could just feel something in his throat. Yeah. It's one thing to say that, it's another thing to say, well, there's water here, and they drill and they find all this water, and then you go somewhere else and they find it again and again and again. And my father's got quite a good record with that. So, It's quite something, I guess. Diane says, praying for you all in South Africa and Belgium. I wish I could do more. I must say, a lot of people are doing a lot for the Wells family, sending food and it's good to see. It's good to see people taking care of other people. Misdemeanor, my first live love from Wales. It must be about 9:20 there. Hey, it's 10:20 here. Laura Bell, you're my favorite channel to listen to. You're the best, and I love your accent. I also like Chris from the interview room. Yeah, he's pretty good. Annette McKay, you're using your sixth sense as an aid to go with well thought common sense. I think if you can combine, I don't know if the word is intuition, but if you can combine that, let's call it a sixth sense, with thinking rationally and thinking logically, I think that's quite hard to beat. Like I think you are quite a force to be reckoned with, where there's a certain X factor of intuition, and then also being able to have a sort of a logic fabric where you what Sherlock Holmes called his I think he called it his thought palace or something like that, where he puts all of his memories. Little B sending greets from Germany. Lisa Raisin, how did you get started with crime investigating? With the Oscar Pistorius case, I was friends on Facebook with the victim in that case and just felt like her story was never being told, and that became stronger and stronger and stronger. And I didn't ever mean to write a book about it, but I wrote more and more about it, and I got more and more involved, and I just didn't stop. And I felt like I had an impact on that case, and that my early intuitions and my early feelings were not only strong, but that they were true and justified, and they turned out to be that, given the ultimate court verdict. It was quite a long trial narrative, but what I felt in the beginning was ultimately the verdict that they came to, in a sense. And then that was kind of how I got my start, and how I was introduced to American true crime. Was an American was also interested in the Oscar Pistorius case, and everyone said, you need to speak to Juror 13. And when I did, she found this incredible information that no one knew about, but it was basically out there. You just needed to have paid attention. And she kind of introduced me to the wider world of true crime. And so we worked on a couple of books together, and she introduced me to some really high-profile cases, the Jodi Arias case, and she actually ultimately came and visited me in South Africa, and we had quite a cool partnership, and we started the Shakedown Title website, and we actually spoke the other day, and if I ever end up in the States, I'll probably go and visit her. She's in California. So was he a farmer? Do you mean my dad? He is a farmer, yeah. Diane says, I'm looking forward to your books. Thanks, Diane. Who's talking about Tector Gorge? Deborah, how do you feel about Oscar? I think he should have gotten an even heavier sentence. I think that was like cold-blooded, what he did. Lisa Ryson, I think your intuition is amazing. Thanks for that. I've heard about that Joe Nell, but so far, we'll see. Teresa Payne, Jodi Arias case has really got me interested, and Madeline too. Dowsing finds water and minerals and more. Judy says, I agree with you about Oscar. Okay. Julie, thanks very much. Julie's also on Patreon. Thanks a lot, Julie. I think I'm going to end on that high note and that good note. Thanks, Julie. We're about to hit 2.5 hours. Good to have so many people in the house again. I think we've set a new record. It's really good to see. It's really nice seeing the channel growing. So it's really good to have you all here. I'll be continuing to cover the Summer Wells case, and I don't know, I think we're going to see some developments there sooner rather than later. You know, I think some people think the case is sort of blowing over. I'm not. I still think things are going to happen. Someone says goeienacht, goeienacht. Shout out to the mods. Yes, shout out to the mods. Thanks, guys. Tara Foster, thank you. Honest Rage, okay. Sheila Maguire, most informative evening. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Alina. Deborah, cheers. Stephanie, Loris, all you guys, thanks very much. Thanks again, mods. Thanks to all of you guys who've contributed, commented, subscribed. If you haven't subscribed, please do. See you guys tomorrow. Okay, take care. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Bye.